But in the meantime, I had contacted my doctor and they said, yeah, why don't you come in and let's have some tests. So I went through these tests and they said, yeah, looks like there's some irregularities here. We're going to do some more tests. They did some more tests and they said, yeah, you're fine. It's okay. That was on a Monday. I got that, back. And by Friday night, Saturday morning, I was literally dying.
Welcome to the How People Grow podcast, Season 5. I'm David Achada, an author, leadership consultant, coach, and former pastor. You just heard from today's guest. In this season, we're exploring what it means to be a rooted person, connected to God, to others, and the larger story we're a part of. Together, we'll discover how rootedness transforms pain, restores connection, and helps people live with greater depth. Thanks for being here. So today I'm so excited to have one of my longest time mentor friends today on this podcast, Ron Pickell. And Ron Pickell and I met many years ago when I was a college student, and we've tracked together ever since. And Ron is a recently retired pastor and has been a college chaplain on many college campuses. Currently, he lives out near University of California at Berkeley. And Ron, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for doing this with me.
Really happy to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's rare that I get to share one of my hero pastor friends with the world.
I don't even know what to say about that.
So, Ron, share a little bit about who you are, where you live, what you do for fun, your situation in life, just so we can get to know you a little bit.
Okay. Well, I live in an amazing part of the world. In fact, I'm sitting here right now, this afternoon at my kitchen um, countertop here, looking out my picture window,
Mm,
which became a picture window just a few years ago. It wasn't a big picture window. We did some remodeling here in our home, and you walk in the front door, and you can look straight through the living room, dining room, kitchen through our picture window, and out that picture window, right up, just out that window is the Golden Gate Bridge,
mm,
and
what a
and
view.
our deck. Yeah, and when there's no marine layer, it's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now, and I've been here in the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area for the last 25 years.
I can't believe it's been that long. Wow.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like I blinked and 25 years went by, you know.
Right, man.
Yeah, but
Crazy.
I've been pastoring an amazing community, many amazing church community called Life Adventist Church in Berkeley, and just a few blocks away from the University of California, Berkeley campus. Um, my congregation has been made up of students and young adults and a smattering of people from the community. Um, and it's been kind of a revolving door because students come and go.
Hmm.
So I think there's maybe one or two people in the congregation that were there when I came
Right.
25 years ago.
Man, so many people cycle through.
Exactly. But we have almost the same number of people that attend now as they did then. So, in one way you could say the church hasn't grown, but in another way you'd say it's been growing all the time. You
Yeah,
know,
right. It
it's
regrew itself.
it regrows itself well, at least every 3 or 4 years. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm married to the most phenomenal, amazing woman that I tell people, two great things happened to me in my life, and one of them was a surrender to God years ago, and the other was to invite Carolyn to be my be my
Mm,
wife. I said yes.
mm,
And I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done a lot of things wrong, but because of those two great decisions, um, they haven't really had the impact on me that they might have I hadn't made those decisions. So
right.
and I got three grown children, Ryan, Joel, and Emily, and they're out in the world doing their thing, just
Hmm.
around making a difference,
Yeah.
trying to be good people, and they
Hmm.
are good people. And yeah, so I just retired,
Yeah.
pastoring, 45 years of being a campus minister and pastor of a campus church, and um, also helping to launch college ministry um, in non-church owned facilities for our denomination in in what we would probably consider public universities or non-church owned universities. And I've kind of helped lead and direct that for, I don't know, the last um, 20 years.
Mm,
Yeah, while pastoring a church and being a campus minister at UC Berkeley.
yeah. Yeah. What's interesting, Ron, to me about your story is it's pretty unusual for a man of your years.
Years.
It's unusual for a man of your years to still be passionate about college students. And, the subject of this season of this podcast is living a rooted life.
Hmm.
And I wonder if you take us back to where'd that passion come from? That would sustain you this long
Hmm.
for reaching out to students because it, in a way, has rooted you. You've almost always, as far as I know, come back to that.
Hmm.
So, yeah, take us back. How did you get this way?
Yeah, so I probably would need to start with my own story. The biggest change that happened in my life. Um, I was I was floundering as a teenager and didn't, I would say I was unrooted. In fact,
Mm,
the real initial change, inertia of change happened one night, leaving a bunch of my friends who were having a great time, getting high,
hmm.
partying, you know, and um, I left. I left that and drove. We were living. My parents were living in Florida, in Clearwater, Florida at the time, and I got in my car and I drove out to Clearwater Beach, and I was standing on Pier 60 in Clearwater Beach, and I was just thinking about my life, and I was thinking about the party that I just left, and just thinking about like I felt like I was kind of in this transition or this middle place where I had recently been asked to leave a Christian boarding school like high school that I was at for getting into some trouble there. And as I came home, it was like, well, what do I do now? And I was just really basically continuing the lifestyle that I'd been developing there. And and as I left the party that night, I just thought, is what's my life going to be? What's the direction going to be? And I had a longing to be back there with my friends in boarding school, but I couldn't because I had messed things up. And I had this new group of friends that I was starting to, find my life in. And I was uncomfortable. I didn't know what direction to go. And I was standing on this pier and I was looking out of the water and I was noticing this buoy. There was a buoy out in the waves and it was going back and forth. It was the waves were just knocking it back and forth. And I said, man, that's me.
Hmm.
I, I feel like that buoy, you know, and I'm just with every wave it comes, I'm going this way or that way. And as I thought about that, focused on that, I started looking at the pier that I was standing on and thinking about the difference between the cement piling of the pier and the buoy. And I just said I didn't pray. I didn't there was no like there was no like real God moment, you know, or come to Jesus
Mm-hmm.
moment. Uh, it was just like, I'd like to be more like this pier.
Mm.
I don't want to be like this buoy that's just kind of tossed here and there. I want a direction. And so there were a lot of steps that took place after that that did bring me into, you know, what I can only describe as a conversion story where um, I had an encounter with Jesus.
Mm.
And in that encounter, it was very clear. It's like he was saying to me, you know, um, you can be like the pier. He come, you know, and and I felt like there were too many things in my life that were completely contrary to anything that, you know, that would resemble you know, a Christian life. Um, and I just said that. I said, "Oh, yeah, I'll ruin your reputation. I'm not gonna be a good disciple, you know." And and the answer came back immediately, like, "That's good. You finally know that. I'll take you just as you are."
Mm.
And I'm like, "Wow, well, if I can come just as I am, and I don't have to do any, there's no change, nothing's gonna change." Uh, sure. And of course, as I, you know, kind of made that public surrender, everything began to change.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, Everything began to change. And
Mm-hmm.
um, which eventually led me back to that pier about a year later. And I was just thinking there about, well, what do I want to do with my life? I was basically at that same place. And I was just thinking like, well, how could I, how could I really make a difference? How could I be of help, you know, in this world? And I thought of like education. Well, you know, maybe I could help, you know, in the area of being a teacher or educator. Nothing specific, just like, you know, maybe this is the direction. And then I thought of psychology. I thought, well, you know, that psychology can, you know, really help people. Um, I didn't think of medicine because I don't like blood. It scares me. Yeah. So I was never going that in that direction. And then it just hit me. It's like, well, you need to help people experience the kind of life change that you've experienced.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
if you can help people have an encounter, you know, with the divine, with God, like you have, that's the source, you know. So start from there. And I didn't know what else to do, but look into like learning more about the Bible and more about, you know, the faith that I was raised in. And so I went away to college and about during that time there,
And what year was this, Ron, by the way?
that was oh man, that was 1975.
Yeah. So what was happening in the culture at this time?
Oh man. I mean, my first car was a 1969 Dodge Super Bee
Mm.
that I could have died in, you know, that had way too much power. And, you know, people were experimenting with, you know, all kinds of things. I remember wishing that I had been able to have gone um, you know, um, Woodstock.
Hmm.
'Cause those were the everybody that was playing there were people that I was listening to, and
Yeah.
that was my world, you know. I was still a little young to have been able to have, been able to attend Woodstock, but I mean that's what people were talking about. That was my world, you know.
Mm. Yeah. And what was it? What was that like to make this decision that you were going to go and study pastoral work when the culture is doing all this wild stuff?
Well, I wasn't gonna see. That's the thing. I never felt a call to be a pastor.
Oh, okay.
Ever. No. In fact, I had images of what being a pastor was, and I was like, that, I mean, just like I could never be, a really successful Christ follower, I knew I would not be a good pastor. Yeah, wouldn't fit, you know. Um, in fact, there was definitely the counterculture and drug culture and all that going on, and I was definitely a part of that. Um, but when I was converted, when this big change took place in my life, there was also another counterculture of Christianity, and it was called the Jesus movement.
Mm. Yeah.
And I thought of myself as kind of being a part of that, you know. I had a girlfriend embroider a picture of Jesus on my jeans. Yeah. I wish I had those today.
Yeah.
You know, they would be worth a lot, you know. I would never be able to fit into them, but they would be worth a lot. Um, there was a counterculture of Christianity at the same time. And if anything, I kind of fit into that. And when I went to this Bible school, um, they asked, well, what's your major? And I said, well, I don't really, I'm not even intending to graduate from here. I just want to
Right.
learn some Bible, I want to learn something about my faith. And said, okay, well, you're going to be a theology major. And I said, oh, okay, all right. And 5 years later, I graduated with a theology degree. And my first my first appointment was to be a youth pastor in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Hmm.
And that was a pretty good place, to be. But in college, I began to realize how important that period of life is.
Mm.
It's,
Right.
it's such an important time in a person's life. And I realized, how much I developed there spiritually and, matured emotionally and physically and relationally, all those things. It was really a very important time in life. And I thought, wow, if there's if there's any group of people that I really feel connected to and feel like are in a place where they're in a life shift, it's college years.
Right.
And my last year in college there, I was elected to be like the student chaplain. And we did all kinds of fun stuff. We started prayer movements and small groups in the dorms, and we started a meeting on Friday night that was counter to the university. We had our own thing where kids were coming to that. And anyway, um, but I had an opportunity during that period to attend a weekend conference. And at that conference, one of the things that you could do is you could spend an afternoon on the nearby public university campus. And so some friends of mine, we took our guitars and we went to the University of North Carolina Greensboro campus, and we spent the afternoon just out there hanging out with students and talking with them. And man, I thought this if being on a Christian college campus is if you can have an impact there, what kind of impact could you have, in public universities?
Mm.
And so that
Right.
was where I really got the inspiration.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't even think about this when we were starting the interview about the question about rootedness because you spent your entire career working with young adults who haven't really even found their footing yet.
Mm.
And as we grew up, we learned who we are.
Mhm.
But when you're in some kind of ministry like this, you're sort of learning alongside everybody else you're working with.
Exactly. You get on the conveyor belt with them
Yeah,
or the escalator,
right.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what do you think that you have taken from many many years of working with students about what a grounded or what a rooted person has that other people don't, or what are those people like that is different from people who don't have a kind of groundedness or rootedness?
Mm. Well, um, I guess I would say that they have some sense about their own direction. You know, they're well enough integrated that they can be present to themselves, and present to others around them, and in my situation, present to God, present to something that is greater than them, and they're aware of that. They're not trying to run from that. They're not hiding from that. They're trying to lean in to that, whatever that means for them, you but they're also able to kind of sense where other people are at, and they're able to give of themselves, to that. I had a student when I was at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. We had a like kind of a dorm there, or a campus house, and there were some rooms that we could rent out. And I had a guy that was really faithful, involved, and really committed guy. And I thought, well, that's the kind of person I'd like to actually be living here and be a
Hmm.
leader. So I said to him, I said, his name was Mark. I said, Mark, would you consider, being a resident next year? He said, well, I've thought about it, but I'm living in the dorm right behind the campus house, and I've got all kinds of friends there. And when I leave, our fellowship time here on Friday night, I go down to the strip and I find my friends down there. And a lot of them, they've drank too much and they have a hard time getting back. So I help them get back to the dorm. And he said, I also got like this kind of this prayer thing going on with a group there in the dorm. He said, if I leave that, come down here and live in this house, which would be nice, that this is a nice environment. But he said, I would lose all that contact and all those relationships.
Hmm.
And I thought, you shouldn't move in here.
Yeah,
You stay right where you are.
right.
And to me, that's kind of an example of what a rooted, integrated person is.
Hmm.
They have a sense of who they are. They have a sense of why they're doing what they're doing, what they're about, and they have ability to see what other people need
Hmm. Yeah.
and can participate in that.
Yeah, I love that image of, I think, unfortunately, what happens with Christians and their idea of what's a good idea for people is we pull people out of an environment that they could actually be a lot more helpful if they would just stay in it,
Right.
like him. So I love that you had the sense even back then to say, no, you should actually be right there.
Mm.
But you did say something earlier about being present to yourself.
Mm.
What does that mean when you say that?
You know, um, when I think about like kind of the classic disciplines of, well, for instance, probably the one that especially evangelical Christians talk about most is like Bible study,
Hmm.
you know, Bible study. Um, but the one that people I think struggle with more than anything is prayer,
Mm.
being able to be still and to be okay with the quiet, the silence, you know. And for me, I'm not, I think Luther said that, when he was only able to pray 4.5 hours, he felt like it wasn't doing his time. I just cringed at that. As I guess, well, he didn't have a cell phone, obviously, but
Right.
you know, but but for me, prayer has something that um, I want to know more about. I want to lean into. Um, I like Richard Rohr's book, especially "Everything Belongs."
Yeah.
Uh, I think that is really helpful. Um, I read a good book recently called "Praying Like Monks and Living Like Fools,"
Ooh, I
and
like that.
that's a great book. I recommend that to everybody. But for me, prayer has been more of a conversation, a dialogue, and I, especially here in the East Bay, I walk my dogs in the morning out at the the Berkeley Marina. Actually, it's called Point Isabel, and it's a free dog park. It's actually the most visited park in California
Hmm.
because people bring their dogs out there and they can have them off the leash.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
But out there in the morning, I can just let my dogs go and I can walk along. And many, many times, I just sense that I'm not walking alone, that it's a walk that I'm having, with God.
Hmm.
And it's amazing conversations and insight, have come there. And sometimes it's just quiet. It's just the breeze but I'm still aware. My doctoral professor would say that encounter is God's presence and my awareness. I think that's pretty good.
Hmm.
I think God is always present,
Hmm.
but I don't think I'm always aware.
Yeah.
And I have to slow down. I need to slow down. I need to slow down and watch in order to even see the movement that's happening around me.
Hmm. Hmm.
So being able to do that is really critical for me. And I've appreciated just being able to see where the presence of God is, where the kingdom of God is breaking in, and I'm getting to watch it or even be a part of it.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's that's what it means, for me.
Yeah. And how would you describe that to somebody who doesn't really understand the kingdom of God breaking in? Like, what's your best simple sentence or two that can help us get our hands or understanding around that?
Well, I have a story, if I can tell it really quickly. I
Yeah.
was out at the marina walking one morning, and this lady approached me, and she had a black Spitz, kind of medium-sized dog. And she approached me and she said, "Would you feed my dog?" And I thought, that is a weird request. Why would I want to feed your dog? You feed your dog, you
Yeah.
know? And then she said, "Well, let me back up." She said, "It's not really my dog. I'm kind of trying to reacclimate this dog." And I said, "Okay." He said, "Yeah, he was used for bait
Oh.
for pit bulls."
Oh.
And then she showed me his ear, which had been half bitten off. And she said, I've brought him out here." She says, "It's not even my dog. I'm just trying to help with the therapy for the dog." And she said, "Yeah, I've had him out here enough that he's made improvement, that he's not so scared of other dogs because he's realizing, well, not every dog is a pit bull, or not every dog is a mean pit bull, and so he's becoming less anxious, less. But the fear has now moved to men,
Oh.
because men were the ones who were actually getting the pit bulls to eat him, you
Hmm.
know.
Wow.
And so she said, "What I'm doing now is stopping every man that I can, and giving them something and asking them." to give him a
mm,
treat. And
mm,
so he's learning that not all men are like that too.
mm,
I thought, wow, that's a message. Yeah. So, and I reached down and I fed the dog and he took it. And as she was walking away, I promise you, clear as a bell, the words came, that's the kingdom.
mm,
You just experienced the kingdom of God because the kingdom of God is overturning everything that is damaged and broken and hurt and abused in this world and transforming it into a new life. It's just that simple.
mm. Yeah.
I don't know if this woman goes to church. I don't know what religious thing is, but that's the work of the kingdom.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing I want to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. The question that comes up is, and does it, I mean, what do you think? Does it matter? I mean, what we Christians tend to do is we tend to, look at good things happening in the world and it doesn't have our brand on it. We're like it's probably not, that great. It's probably not as good as what we could do. Our stuff is better because we have, God on our side. So like, does it really matter?
I don't think so. I was getting on a plane one day and there was a woman in the airport as we were getting ready to board our plane, and I saw her and she had this book in her hand, and I could tell that um, it had some kind of a title about Buddhism, and I thought, I wonder what she's reading there. And 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 then I thought my first thought was like, surely I'm not going to be sitting by her. And we got on the plane, and yes, we were sitting right beside
Right.
each other. And not every time you get on a plane do you want to have this deep conversation with somebody. Sometimes you do, but and sometimes they do. Um, but here we were sitting beside each other, and we started talking a little bit, and then I asked her about her book, and man, she lit up. She was just so excited about what she was learning and how she had grown from her time, in Buddhist philosophy. And so I asked her, so well, tell me more. Tell me what have you really, and how has it made such a difference in your life? And I don't know, she'd come from this pretty strict, not very helpful Catholic background in school. Fortunately, not all nuns and all priests are as some are.
Hmm.
Some are wonderful.
Yeah.
Great, great Catholics out there. Better than people from my faith, I'm sure, from my denomination. But but her situation hadn't been a good story. And so she had really like had completely run away from that. And she was learning and becoming um like spiritually active in a Buddhist way of thinking and way of life. And so, I was asking her, well, what was the difference? And then she told me this story about, I don't remember all the details, but she told me the story about a crow that had gotten trapped in her back porch, and how she helped that crow, and how it also, she developed kind of relationship with it. And some of the practices and things that she was reading in her Buddhist philosophy was just lining up with that. And I said, "Oh man, that is such a touching story. That's amazing." And then she asked me, she says, "Well, tell me about like your." And so I told her a little bit about my experience, and I told her about what I was learning about the kingdom of God.
Mm.
All of a sudden, she started just crying, you know.
Mm.
And then I started tearing up. And we realized we were in the same place.
Mm.
We were talking about the same thing,
Mm.
and it didn't have a label, you
Yeah.
know. with something greater, something beyond all that. And I think that's really and actually, even if you're, in this one box called Christianity, um, or a denomination in Christianity, whatever it is, I think that's the conversation that we want to have.
Hmm.
How are people
Yeah.
actually encountering something so much greater, so much bigger than themselves, and it's transformative,
Hmm.
powerful,
Yeah. Right.
Um, that's the issue, I think.
Yeah. You're making me think of Saint Francis.
Mm.
I've had to study him a lot this last year because I'm doing a training through the Franciscan Spiritual Center in Portland, Oregon, right outside of Portland, and we've been learning about his life. Now he moved through the world in such a state of awe that it didn't matter who he encountered, what their belief system was, their socioeconomic class. They just were attracted to him like a magnet because he had such an open posture. And even the way that he referred to nature, brother sun, sister
Mhm.
moon,
Mhm.
he wasn't interested in categorizing what is what. He just moved through the world in this state of awe and beauty. And
Mhm.
I feel like, I mean, at least in my life, when I've been at my best, I've been able to embody that in such a way to where the conversation about, our categories and our religions and our denominations, it's just not as important or interesting as, sitting next to somebody on a plane,
Mhm.
crying together at the beauty that you're both discovering.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think, I mean, I see that even in Jesus. I see, a much bigger being than the organization that has developed around him.
Right.
um, Someone that could have conversations with anybody who actually is really open and seeking and I mean I think of one story about the lawyer, the attorney that was asking him about like, well, what's the greatest commandment? And Jesus says, well, it's he quotes the Jewish Shema, but then he goes on and adds the other command in Leviticus, which isn't even a part of it, and that is, loving your neighbor as yourself. And then the attorney, the lawyer says, "Wow, you're really right. That's really true. That's really true." And then Jesus says, "Keep thinking that way. You're not far from the kingdom."
Right. I love it. So simple. Keep thinking like that.
Yeah, yeah. You'll get there.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
really truly is about love. That's really what it is.
yeah.
Really, truly is. Yeah.
Yeah, Ron, you've helped me so much through the years with those simple statements that are so similar to what Jesus would have said, like, yeah, keep thinking like that. That's
Mm.
okay. I remember I heard Francis Chan speak years ago about Jesus speaking to crowds and how he would end his parables with basically the modern day equivalent of, if you get it, you get it.
Yeah.
There wasn't this strong arming of trying to get you to
No.
move down a linear path. And what I'm wondering is, thinking back on your story, of the buoy,
Mm.
and the pier, like you're you're kind of bouncing around in the world versus you have some kind of stability, some kind of steadiness.
Mm.
But we all go through stuff that knocks us around. And
Mm.
what has been maybe one of the harder seasons of time for you where you got really knocked around and you found yourself having to really reevaluate what you were rooted in? Do you have an experience like that you could share?
Mm. Well, several. Um, but I think what I'll do is I'll speak from the one that's most recent. Well, actually, I think I'll I was gonna talk a little bit about, my retirement, but the truth is my retirement is turning out to be wonderful. So I don't, you know,
That's
I think
great.
I think probably the one that has really been a pivot in my life was my heart attack
Mm,
4 years ago, which just came out of nowhere, you know. In looking back, I think that it's connected to um, COVID, um, um, what do you call it? The COVID preventative thing
hmm.
we
Yeah.
got. I had a Johnson and Johnson um, shot 2 weeks before,
Hmm.
and so yeah, 2 weeks later, I'm starting to feel chest pain and hard to breathe, and stopping while I'm walking out at the marina, just stopping and wondering what's going on here. And anyway, at first I thought probably it was just indigestion. Um, Maybe I had been fasting, so I I would eat like lunch, and then I didn't eat again until breakfast the next day. And I'd walk in the morning, and then I'd come back and eat breakfast. And I thought, well, maybe I need to at least eat a banana or something. So I did that, and I wasn't feeling it anymore. And I thought, well, okay, I'm all right. But in the meantime, I had contacted my doctor, and they said, yeah, why don't you come in and let's have some tests. So I went through these tests, and they said, yeah, looks like there's some irregularities here. We're going to do some more tests. They did some more tests, and they said, yeah, you're fine. It's okay. That was on a Monday. I got that, back. And by Friday night, Saturday morning, um, I was literally dying.
Hmm.
I was,
Wow.
I was up here in my dining room, um, literally passing out. And anyway, on the way to the hospital, the the EMT was saying to me, "Hey, stay with us. Stay with us." And I'm thinking, well, I'm in the ambulance. I don't know where to go. What he was saying was, you're dying,
Hmm.
and,
Yeah.
and don't die on us. And I don't really remember the trip after that
Hmm.
to the hospital, and they um, had to hit me 3 different times, with a resuscitator, and once in the ambulance and then two in the operating room. And yeah, that was a life changing moment for
Hmm.
me,
Wow.
experience. And I had a triple bypass after that. And I mean, if it wasn't for how great medicine is today and what we can do today, I wouldn't be here.
Hmm.
I'd be gone.
Yeah.
So that was yeah. But what's funny is in the ambulance, I had this moment where I'm like, okay, I guess maybe this is it,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't, my son asked me later, did you see a light? And I didn't see any lights.
I was gonna ask too. No
No,
lights.
I didn't have that, but I did have a conversation. And, I basically, just said, God, if this is it, then, I'm ready to start the next adventure. I know this is not the end, and I'm ready for whatever is coming next. That was my first thought, and then the second thought was like, yeah, but what about my family? What about my kids? What about my wife? I mean, this is going to be so hard on them. And I just pled, God, please not now,
Hmm.
you know. Like I feel ready to go. I feel at peace. I feel like I could, and I feel like, hey, you know what? I've lived a great life. It's okay. And now I'm ready for the next step. But um, yeah, I think there's still more that I'm supposed to do. Or people have asked me, do you feel like I don't know if I have any kind of like big plan of why I'm still here, but And I do think that I would hate for my family to have to go through that
Yeah,
lot, so.
right. How did that experience cause you to reevaluate and maybe even grow deeper or differently than you were up to that point?
I think in terms of spiritually, I really feel cared for. It's like you trust this, you believe it, but then you come to it and it's like, well, do I really believe this?
Hmm.
And I felt like I felt able to lean into it and it was okay.
Yeah.
So I have a peace about that. Um, yeah, yeah, again, people have asked me like, so um how is it shaped like what you want to do? Well, I am more focused on what I really want to try to accomplish,
Hmm.
especially after, I got kind of um nudged, I'll put it that way, nudged towards retirement.
Hmm.
Well, okay, well, I'm going to retire. Well, what do I want to do? I don't want to, I'm not going to sit home and watch TV.
Yeah.
You know, what am I going to do?
Hmm.
And so there are some things. I have felt called to college ministry. It's been a calling for me.
Yeah.
And I've stuck with it and I've tried to do everything I can with it. But there are some things that I know need to happen for it. And I feel like I'm probably still the person that can do that. And I'm trying to really give that my all. And by not having to pastor a church at the same time, I can focus on that even more. Uh,
Hmm.
but I also want to spend more time with my wife and my kids.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I bought a hot tub, David, and I'm melting into madness. But I also bought another Martin D35 guitar.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and, it,
So
and
I,
it's an old.
well, so actually, this is great that you mentioned this because I want to shift for our last 5 minutes or so to this question of music.
Hmm.
And again, just briefly, because I think what you've said at this point is really good and important about knowing who you are, knowing where you're going, what you're about, having some kind of relationship with the divine that you can rest in and be guided with. And one of the things I've always admired about you is your ability to articulate it in simple terms. I feel like I communicate in simple terms, and maybe a lot of that is because of my relationship with you. And
So I'm sure it's not that, but
oh,
yeah.
come on, come on. But I remember when I first started spending time with you as a college student, I met you. I was working at a summer camp in North Georgia, and you brought your guitar, and I was able to record some of your really old songs back from the Jesus movement time.
Oh my goodness.
And I love those songs. And as you reflect back on your music and your songwriting, is there one song that has a few lines in it that you think those are still really true? And I still think that way, and I still rest that way, and I still operate that way. What are some of the lyrics? What's the song, and what are some of the lyrics?
Oh man, I actually found um, a notebook where, I had written down most of my stuff,
Hmm.
you know, everything that probably matters, what I'm
Right.
saying? And some things that don't matter.
Right.
But yeah, in fact, I told Carolyn the other day, there's a song that I wrote that I haven't fully appreciated. That I told her, I said, this might actually be one of the best songs I've written.
Hmm.
And it's a song called "Come to the Wedding,"
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
uh, and it's about like the invitation that we receive in Matthew's gospel story of Jesus, where people are invited to the wedding, and and to me, the the thing that I have that has really sustained me about Christianity, or about I wouldn't even say Christianity, about Jesus. I think a lot of people, like, they have a warm, wonderful, fuzzy relationship with God as they come to know God through Christ, and they find a a personal encounter with God there. And that's good. I mean, we all need that. We all need to know that God is real, and that he cares about us, that he's present, um, that he's for us. But there's something else that really has sustained me as a follower of Jesus, and that is his message about the kingdom.
Hmm.
To me, what he when he talks about the reign of God, the rule of God, it's a much bigger picture than personal salvation.
Hmm.
But it's about God's vision for the world.
Hmm.
You know, I'm even I have some interns that are working with me this year at UC Berkeley, five of them, um, three from three from let's see, one from Germany, one from Austria, and the other three are from Hungary. And they're with me this whole year. And I told them, I said, look, on campus, I think we could actually get people's attention if we said to them, we could create a shirt that said Mulga versus MAGA. So I said, well, what's Mulga? And I said, make our world and our life great again. Instead of make America great again. And to me, that's the vision of the kingdom, that God wants he wants people to step into their own.
Hmm.
He wants people to know who they are, what they were, why we're here, his vision for this world and for them, this bigger picture. And so that song, "Come to the Wedding," um, it's the invitation of come into this marriage, this encounter with God.
Hmm. Do you
Everyone's invited.
do you have a favorite line in that song?
Oh man. And he said, "Come to the wedding, for all has been prepared, and all are welcome there.
Mm,
Come to the wedding." Yeah. I mean, that's probably the main
it's
line.
awesome. I
I mean,
love it.
it actually is telling a story, so it's kind of a ballad,
Hmm. Yeah,
not like other songs, but
yeah. And I love that MOLGA acronym. I've got to get one, a big red hat that says MOLGA on
my,
it.
my students who come from other countries, they said, "Oh, I don't think we should do that. It's too political." And I'm going, "Hey, you guys don't understand. This is Berkeley. They would
Yeah.
love here." You know?
So I'll start a sentence and maybe you can finish it for me.
Okay.
All right. We can make our lives great again. When?
Now, right now. Because Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is at hand.
Mm,
It's here. And it begins with, an understanding of who we are, what our current situation is, and an understanding of all that is open for us.
mm.
It's completely open. Everything belongs.
Yeah. Mm.
Everything belongs.
It's beautiful, Ron. Thank you. I love having these talks with you.
Me too. This was fun.
Yeah.
This is a
If
lot better
people
than I imagined.
I mean, you never know what's going to happen in these things. If some of our listeners would like to find you or get in touch with you, are you open to that?
Yeah, I've got an Instagram account.
Okay. How would,
You
what's it called?
Um, it's well, I think it's called. RPIG WOC.
Okay.
It's weird that I don't know where I came up with.
I'm gonna put it into the show notes if people want to find you to
I'll tell you
connect
what,
with you.
I'll make sure what it is and I'll send it to you and you can put it in. Uh,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think that's it. Yeah.
I'll put it in there. Well, Ron, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Thanks for the person you are and are becoming.
I owe a lot to you, my friend. Well, I want to give a big thanks to Ron for being here. Thank you. Thank you, Ron. I love you, man. And if you'd like to support us on this podcast, I want to send you over to Substack, davidachata.substack.com. For $8 a month, you can get all the writing and for free. And but the $8 gets you a monthly conversation with the community we're forming there. So go over and check that out. So as we finish up today, I wanted you to know that song that Ron alluded to early in the podcast, The Wedding. I dug it up and I found it. We recorded it a long time ago in the 90s on a tape recorder, and I got it into an MP3 for you. So I'm going to end with The Wedding from Ron Pickell, and we'll see you next week.
Here's an old story written so long ago. A king and his son who would marry the bride he chose. And the wedding was prepared. The servants sent through the land, inviting all of his friends. Join the wedding band, and they said, "Come to the wedding, all are welcome to come. Come to the wedding, the king's only son. For all has been prepared, all are welcome there. Come to the wedding, the honor of the son." Servants and all who welcome them wouldn't accept the marriage. They despise the royal son. So the king sent his soldiers to destroy his rebellious friends. Then he sent his servants to invite every man, and they said, "Come to the wedding, all are welcome to come. Come to the wedding, the king's only son. For all has been prepared, and all are welcome there. Come to the wedding, the honor of the son." Came from distant lands, and as they entered palace walls, each man was issued a robe that would honor the royal son. One man chose a pleasure, but he wouldn't wear a robe. wouldn't honor the song, so the king forced him to go. Meaning of the story is plain for all to see. The wedding's almost here, and the guests are you and me. And the king has sent his servants throughout this modern land. All are bidden to come